Good morning, everyone. If the last people can just take their seats, that would be appreciated. Good morning and welcome to the Department for Infrastructure and Transport's 2024 Construction Sector Industry Briefing. My name is Amanda Collins and I'm the Director of Engagement at the Department. I'd like to welcome our online attendees as well. We have nearly 600 people joining us via live stream. The event is being recorded and will be available on our website for anyone who's unable to join us today. I'd like to begin by respectfully acknowledging the Kaurna people as the traditional custodians of the land we meet on today and recognise their continuing connection to land and waters. I would also like to pay my respects to the diversity of cultures, significance of contributions, and to elders past, present and emerging. Now, a few housekeeping items first. Phones on silent, please. And following presentations, morning tea will be served in the expo. And please identify yourself to Adelaide Convention Centre staff for any dietary requirements. Toilets are located in the foyer to your right. And in case of emergency, please follow instructions by Convention Centre staff. Before we start the briefing, I'd like to invite Cliffy Wilson from Kumakaru for the Welcome to Country.
Thank you and good morning. How are we all? Doing well? You're probably a bit warmer than I am at the moment, considering what I'm dressed in. No, look, I just want to say it's an honour for me to stand up here this morning to firstly represent my family, the Kaurna community, but also Kumakaru Cultural Services, which is an organisation I work for. And Kumakaru in the Kaurna language translates to one blood, as we represent many different Aboriginal groups, not only in South Australia, but across Australia. But those who also work for the organisation are a part of the first generation of their families to be able to relearn the Kaurna language and connect back with their culture. And over the years, be invited to public forums like this to showcase some language and culture, whether that's through Welcome to Country like I'll do today, or some dance performances. Unfortunately, I can't dance for you today. I just got out of a moon boot about a week and a half ago, so I'll get you at the next event, all right? I promise you that. But look, I'd like to start by welcoming you in the traditional Kaurna language this morning, and I want to start by saying, Nyankina mena, ngā mani. Mani Nina Budni, Nānari Cliffy Tunkel, Munacha Wilson, Nagana, Naranjiri, Naranga, Nadri, Arandamiyo. Mariwachanga Kaurna Mirana, Naiwanga di Mani de Budnigani Yatana, Naja Yukandalia Yakandalia, Nachalia. So to translate what I've just said, ladies and gentlemen, firstly, it's good to see you all here this morning. I'd like to introduce myself for those who don't know me. My name is Cliffy Wilson. However, my traditional names down here in Kaurna country are Tunkel and Manacha. So I'd like to give a bit of background on what those two are so you have an understanding of what those names are. So the first one, Tunkel, is my totem. And our totems in community can range from native plants and trees in this country, native animals we have in this country, or even some of the tools and artefacts that we've created over time. So our role is to become the protector of whatever that may be. So for instance, if you have an animal, which I do, we can't hunt it, we can't kill it, and we can't eat it. And if we see it sick or injured, we have to nurture it back to health. Now for me, I didn't get like a fish or a plant, something that was easy to maintain. I think the old fellas kind of threw me under the bus a bit because they gave me Tunkel, which is a king brown snake, one of the most dangerous animals in the world. Oh no, really threw me under the bus, didn't they? No, just having a bit of fun up here. But also Manacha is just my birth order name. So when a mother in Kaurna country gives birth to children, they're all given one. Manacha for me translates to the fourth born and male of my family. So my family are proud Kaurna people from here in the Adelaide Plains, and also proud Ngāti people from back on the lower lakes of the Coorong, back on the Fleur Peninsula. Also have strong family connection to the Naranga people back on the Yoga Peninsula, not too far from there, the Ngāti people on the Flinders Ranges, and last but not least, the Aranda people in the Northern Territory of Alice Springs. But once again, ladies and gentlemen, it's an honour to welcome you here to today's conference, and may we recognise that we are standing on the traditional lands of the Kaurna people. May we pay respects to their cultural and spiritual beliefs, and recognise that the ongoing connection to the land, the sky, and the waters that surround and connect us are still as strong, still as important, but also still as resourceful to the living Kaurna people today. I'd also like to stand here and pay respects to my elders past, present and emerging, but give a special thank you to those who paved the way for me to stand up here to speak my traditional language and welcome you not only to Kaurna country, but to a place that many people from many walks of life now call Wadley, a place many of us now call home. So in saying that, I do pay respects to the many diverse cultures we have, not only in the city of Adelaide, but across the country of Australia. firstly, acknowledge Aboriginal, Torres Strait Islander, First Nations people across the country and those who may be in attendance with us today. But also want to pay respects to other Indigenous communities from across the world that now call this place home. But also I'd like to acknowledge this area that we're standing on also. For the Kaurna people, we refer to the Adelaide CBD as Tarranda Nyanga. So for those who don't know what that means, I'll break that down also. Tarranda Nyanga actually derives from two words in Kaurna vocabulary. The first one is Tarranda. Can we try and say Tarranda? Beautiful. So Tarranda translates to big red kangaroo. It's a totem for our people. It clothed us on days like today, thankfully. It fed us. But most importantly, we believe that the big red kangaroo gave men their law down here in Kaurna country that we abide by for many years and still do today. But the second half of that word is Gunya. Can we say Gunya? Lovely. So Gunya's the rock. And just so there's no confusion around the room, I just want to make sure that you know it's not Dwayne Johnson, the actor and the wrestler you might see on your TVs. But no, look, there were two significant rocks throughout the Adelaide CBD that you won't see today. Unfortunately, they were quarried down many years ago to help build the foundations for the churches and the buildings you do see today. But the locations were coincidentally where we are today. The Adelaide Convention Centre, one stood here, and also one stood in Victoria Square also. But those rocks were significant for the Kaurna people, for them to look at them and say, well, there's our camping grounds, and there's our ceremonial grounds. So ladies and gentlemen, I want to finish off by saying Nachalia and Nakada. Nachalia means thank you in the Kaurna language. So to the staff and organisers, firstly, I say thank you for giving me this platform to showcase some language and educate about the area that we're on. To the audience, thank you for your time, your attention, your respect. Thanks for engaging in the language. Thanks for laughing at my jokes. I really appreciate that as well. But also I just want to finish off by saying Nakada, because as Aboriginal people, we don't believe in a goodbye. So we use the term Nakada down here, which translates to we'll see you again when our paths meet. So once again, Nachalia, Nakada, and I'm going to go get warm. See you later.
Thank you so much, Cliffy. So a bit of an overview of the morning. Today you will hear from firstly John Whelan, our Chief Executive, then the Minister for Infrastructure and Transport, the Honourable Tom Koutsantonis, then Andrew Excel, the Executive Director of our Transport Strategy and Planning Division, then Simon Moroney, our Executive Director of our Infrastructure Delivery Division, and then myself. We're doing things a bit differently this year. After the presentations, we invite you to join us in the Expo Hall to learn more about our projects and upcoming opportunities. This is where we have a few specific stations set up. Some of you might have seen it before we kicked off this morning. And there'll be a number of members from the DIT team that you can meet and speak with. And the DIT members have lanyards on, so you're able to identify them. But for now, I'd like to invite John to say a few words.
Good morning, everybody. Very brave Chief Executive that speaks before his Minister. So I want to acknowledge the land we meet on today is the traditional land of the Kaurna people, always was and always will be. I do acknowledge Minister Koutsantonis. I also thank Cliffy for his welcome to country this morning. Yes, it probably was a bit cold for Cliffy as well, but it's very important that we acknowledge that the land we meet on is the Kaurna land, and the welcome to country is very important for us, important for everybody here today. But what a fantastic turnout. I acknowledge the people in the audience today, but also those online. It's a testament to our industry to have so many people here today, and it's really important that today is the Department for Infrastructure and Transport's forward pipeline of works to come. And that is important for our industry. It's about how we are going to progress and deliver on this state's future, and which is really important to acknowledge that the department can't do that without the people and the industries represented in this room and online today. So from me personally, I want to thank you for all the efforts you do, but also it's really important that we must acknowledge that SA is building. You'll hear from some of the team here today of some of that upcoming work, and they'll stay around also to chat a little bit about it. So we'll have, as Mandy said, Simon and Andy Excel talking. Andy will touch on the planning work, Simon will talk on the social and also the road infrastructure. This is an incredible number. Over the next 4 years, we'll have 11 billion of road and public transport infrastructure projects, 6 billion for social infrastructure projects. This does not include projects like hydrogen, Northern Water, or SA Water. So if these are staggering numbers and we add those on, we will need everyone in this room to help deliver on this outcome, to deliver the projects that we have in our forward pipeline and those already underway. In the past 12 months, we've spent $1.9 billion in 23-24, awarded over 200 contracts and supported 14,000 jobs during the construction phase. And yes, there is more to come. I'll touch quickly on the River Torrens to Darlington project because, as we all know, this is an important project and the biggest infrastructure project in South Australia, if not Australia, at the moment. We're pleased to announce that the consortium of John Holland, Jacobs, Bouygues, Ventia and Arcadis are part of the team to deliver this exciting project. Their bid was exceptional, and as you would have seen, their bid to bring 3 15-metre diameter TBMs to Adelaide is amazing and a groundbreaking for not only South Australia but also Australia. Just to touch on some of the works already done by the department's project team, we've already done nearly 18 kilometres of boreholes for geotechnical information. $350 million of work already been supported with over 900 jobs, and 90% of those are South Australian labour. Couple of quick milestones to show that in the second quarter of next year, the precast facility will start construction. Our first tunnel segment will be in quarter 2 of 2026, and the last tunnel segment will be at around the end of 27. Our first TBM cutter head will arrive here at the end of next year. But you can't do this type of work without resources. And your help today, and the people in this room and online, and those that couldn't make it, will start to look at some of the jobs needed to deliver this amazing project, from plumbers to electricians, to civil engineers, to quality assurance officers, steel fixers, labourers, the list goes on. On top of that, our industry will need to also supply quarry products, tunnel segments, steel, around 135,000 tonne of steel needed, 700 litres of bitumen, 2 million tonne of quarry products. These are huge numbers and are only for just T2D, let alone the other projects that we still have to deliver. The T2D Alliance soon will come out getting resources and engaging with the industry. So for those that can quickly take a snap, there's some emails there and some contacts. I encourage you all to make contact with the Alliance. I will also make special reference to the team that's put this event together. For you here today, you don't see the hard work that the team's done to put such an event together. It only takes a couple of hours, but months to prepare and put stuff together. So I thank them as well for the team that have done this. More importantly, the next few slides that will start to come from the team will be further about the pipeline. So now I'd like to introduce the Minister, Tom Koutsantonis, to say some words. Thank you.
Thanks, John. You stole my speaking spot. Brave for a chief executive. I'm joking. Look, I also want to acknowledge that the land we met on is the traditional lands of the Kaurna people and pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging. And I have to say, I think it's an exceptionally exciting time to be part of this industry here in South Australia right now, because as you can see, the government's agenda is infrastructure based. We're building and we've got an agenda to build. and you'll be seeing a lot more of this signage and a lot more of the government's messaging around South Australia is building. Now, we're tackling some enormous projects that will shape the future of this state. We are at, I think, a critical turning point in the state's history. We've got a Premier who's ambitious for his state. We've got a political stability in the state that will allow us to invest long term. We are thinking long term about infrastructure, and we've got an agency that we believe can deliver this, design it for us, and we've got, of course, an industry that is willing, ready and able to cooperate with the South Australian government to do this. Now, it's reflected, of course, in our budgets. So often you hear the media say, don't look at what politicians say, look at what they do. I say to you, look to the budgets. The South Australian budget has $25.6 billion worth of forward spending on infrastructure over the next 4 years locked in. And it's necessary to do this because South Australia, as I said, is at that turning point. Whether it's a brand new women's and children's hospital, whether it's the Torrens to Darlington project that John just spoke about, of course, there are a lot of opportunities. And those opportunities you'll be seeing in a very quick presentation that I want to make here. And this video will help steer us through where I think you will see the South Australian government's agenda moving forward. Pretty hard not to be optimistic after seeing that type of presentation. The point I want to make to all of you here in this room is that you should be excited about it as well. You've got a government partner that is willing over the next couple of years to make sure we're making long-term investments. In terms of, on top of the Torrens to Darlington and the Women's and Children's Hospital, I also want to talk to you about hydrogen, what we're doing in the Upper Spencer Gulf through infrastructure. Just this year, the Office of Northern Water has been attached to the Office of the Department of Infrastructure and Transport, and John and his team will be leading the procurement of what will be the largest pipeline anywhere in Australia and one of the largest desalination plants here in South Australia, help, of course, with the expansion of Olympic Dam and their second stage smelter to, of course, unlock the vast copper reserves in our state's mid-north. We also want to capitalise on our renewable energy by investing in a hydrogen electrolyser to soak up that excess renewable energy. And of course, we want to make sure that we can get our projects to fruition by making sure that we've got good tendering outcomes, good processes in place, and that's why the government is doing all it can to make sure that the Department of Infrastructure and Transport is at the forefront of these procurements. We're also improving the road network quite dramatically, of course, in metropolitan Adelaide. So our constituents, our citizens, are going to see a lot of activity over the next 3 to 4 years, especially in the west of the city, whether it's the grade separations on our tram network or whether it's a north-south corridor, you are going to see projects from the Fleurieu Peninsula right through to the city, lots of infrastructure work going on, of course, and of course then there's the studies. The studies that the work that Andrew Excel is doing in the department, which has been funded by the Commonwealth Government and the state government, are about looking forwards. They're talking about transport studies further out north, further out south, and of course the Adelaide Hills. You're seeing a very large spend of $1.5 billion to increase our water investment and our water infrastructure for our housing growth. That's going to need rail line, bus routes, roads and infrastructure. That work's being done now. So a third, if I could break this down to you in terms of the way the government views its role, a third of our time is being spent on the things that we promised to do. A third of our time is being spent on things that come up that are unexpected. And a third of our time is being spent on planning for the future. And that future work now is becoming the priority. But I also want to give some confidence to the construction sector. The commitments that we're making for the construction industry, you can feel confident about the future of infrastructure projects across our state. Now, this industry is a massive employer across South Australia, and we are facing some uncertain economic times. With higher interest rates, we are seeing slower economic growth. The government knows that it needs to put its foot on the accelerator and make sure that we are there ready for projects to go. Over the past year alone, as John said, our infrastructure delivery spend was about $2 billion, supporting about 14,000 full-time jobs. They're big numbers. But the most exciting part is there's a lot more to come and those numbers are bigger. We've brought back alliance models. We think alliance models are the right way to go in the north-south corridor, and in my opinion, the advantages of alliances on large-scale projects are proven time and time again, not only for contractors, not only for the industry, but also for the taxpayer. I'm extremely proud of the infrastructure work that we're doing in this state. As the responsible minister, it's my responsibility to, one, drive the department for better outcomes, and two, listen to the industry. I want to hear your feedback. I want to hear about your interactions with the agencies. I want to hear about where we're falling down or where we need to pick up. I want to hear what it is that we can do. We are transforming this state. And I go back again to the Office of Northern Water. We've got two chief executives that are running this program that are world class. World class. And I want to see those infrastructure programs change the way the state looks at itself and others look at us. And that's the way we'll be delivering our infrastructure programs to transform this state. Thank you very much for your attendance. I hope you have a productive day and keep engaging with the department.
Good morning, everyone. Well, it's morning for me too now, just getting back from overseas, so hopefully I should be going okay here. As the Minister just said, spending time in terms of investing in the future in terms of the planning program. So the next couple of years, I'll just outline where we're going with that. We're focusing on our strategic studies. We have been for the last year or so, and area plans, corridor projects. We need to start prioritising our investment decisions and business cases to then put to government for ultimate decisions to invest. So we have a pipeline. We now have, for the next 2 years, about 50 million of works in terms of the planning area, which is very, very different if I went back 3 to 4 years ago, where we were sort of scratching around. So it is actually now a full part, and you'll see in the forward works plan many pages of our planning studies to work through. And that's important with not only the consultants but the construction sector as well. So we're trying to change the way we work together. So we're planning, but we also need the builders to help us plan as well. So that's why everyone here is important to get involved in that. The big thing out of that 50 million, 7 million will be delivered through existing contracts and variations, but 43 million of it will be actually new out to the market. So it should be a big change coming through. As the Minister said about the transport strategy, that is actually under development now. So we're looking at vision-led, scenario-based work in there, and that's underpinned by, as you can see underneath, various different strategies. Some we've completed already, from road safety to supply and freight and supply chain strategy. The other thing to notice here is our strategic asset management plan. So we've got to look after what we've got. So we've got around $40 billion worth of road assets. So you've got to maintain that and get the most out of it as we can. So looking after and investing in that is just as important as new projects as well. The big one you see here, the little square, is the transport strategy is part of many other strategies. So we're trying to integrate into the Greater Adelaide Regional Plan and the 20-year infrastructure strategy along with the economic statement. So they all work together, transport planning, land use planning, especially in our new growth fronts. Just to break it down, so in terms of the themes in the strategy sense, this is how we're investing through the different areas. So we've sort of got a whole lot from planning for growth, looking after freight, active travel. Resilience is actually quite important now, given the last River Murray floods, and decarbonisation is also the important piece. So going into a bit more detail, so the zero emission place, we're investing around $8 million. We are looking at the bus, or decarbonising bus and rail. We've already commenced some of our work with public transport and putting batteries in our existing fleet, so that's continuing on. And also, really important is the department is developing the carbon management plan. So that's how can we actually deliver all these projects with zero emissions. So we're looking at the way we do things is very different in terms of operational aspect as well. The rail network, so this is 8.4 million going to market and looking at rail network planning. Our existing public transport or rail fleet is pretty at capacity, so we've got to start looking at how we're investing on the growth funds, as the Minister said. So it's very, very important how we service these new areas before the housing goes in place, to make that change the way people are going to move through the network. So that will be very interesting. Railway station capacity studies important because these are sort of a end of the line dead end railway station, which makes it a bit difficult, but also continue with the level crossing grade separation works as well, road rail, reducing those risks as well. The resilience, as I said, this is 8 million we're going out to the market. There's a bigger budget, but it goes over multiple years. But basically, following the 2022 River Murray flood, the thing that is really important is not just the impact on homes and shacks and businesses, but it was that really big impact of how freight and distribution works, many critical routes closed, and how that impacts not just the River Murray community, but the wider community of South Australia and Australia as well. So that will be coming out soon. Active travel. Next door, if you go to the stand, we've got the travel design guide that's just been released. That's really important in terms of shifting the way we're investing in our projects in terms of how people move and walk cycling. So it's looking at the people, not just our freight component as well. So all the designers, planners, you need to get your head around that. Things are going to change in that space. Inside that, we've got a big program of part of the 168 million National Road Safety Program. There's a big active travel, pedestrian and cycling part, and that travel design guide will be part of implementing that. I'm sure Simon will talk a bit more about those details as well. Our standard drawings will also be updated as well in terms of master specification, so this will all be integrated back into our specification works. Freight enablement, we've been working on this for a while, and we have actually got the strategic business case complete, which now goes through the appropriate assurance processes, so we will need to be submitting that to Infrastructure Australia to go through that process to get to the next stage. But we are sort of planning to get to the program business cases and project-specific business cases, and we will be going out to market with the next stage of this, so that'll be something new as well. So this will really fill the future pipeline and show our commitments for the major improvements across South Australia for freight. Further to that, the state and federal government is $500 million over 10 years to enhance productivity for freight. And you can see in terms of the map there where that focus is on. So it's further from previous programs, and it looks at the whole system from maintenance to existing to new projects as well. So we're sort of really working on terms of fatigue through there, safety, as well as junction upgrades and some more information for drivers as well. So we also need to start thinking about future technology in terms of that space as well. So the planning for growth, this is $17.5 million we're investing in various things. So the Adelaide North area planning, so this is in terms of the support housing demand, and it's focusing on short term and also the long term as well. So we're trying to get a big plan of attack in terms of this area, and as the Minister said, public transport is really critical in this part as well in terms of how to change or influence the way people move across South Australia or across Adelaide. Other parts where the active travel personal mobility strategy as well, so we'll integrate into the cycling strategy into that as well, and then we've got a various amounts of area planning or transport planning, which then helps us lead to project planning. And then as well, we've got supply chain studies, which is the Eyre Peninsula, which is the grain export, and looking at that rail component as well in that space. And then we'll move on to the container supply chain strategy as well. This all gets culminated into a forward works plan, so for the next 3 to 4 years. And you can see a list in there in terms of through theme. We also have, from marine road, but also the infrastructure, government infrastructure as well, that Simon's area delivers. So that's, and as you see, road asset sustainment. So that's it. Once the forward program is released, have a look at it. You can contact myself or my team, Russell Troop, Gemma Koenig, in terms of that area to understand what's going on. So we need your help. We can't do it ourselves. We need to actually the wider industry to participate in that. So that's me done. I'll pass over to Simon now.
Thanks, Andy. So I'm going to build on Andy's slide there about the forward works plan and talk about what are upcoming projects. For those that have been to these industry briefings the last few times, I've predominantly spoken about the social infrastructure projects, but just to let you know, we have realigned our divisions a little bit, and so the infrastructure delivery division now has oversight with the social and the transport projects, so today's slides will be a bit of a mix of both of those. This slide here, don't worry about all the detail, and it's something you can look at afterwards if you're interested. It's just providing a bit of context as to how, I guess, a project life cycle evolves through our social spaces and our transport projects. So social, schools, hospitals, prisons, and then our transport projects, road, rail and marine. So it shows here quickly, for example, that a business case for a hospital is obviously led by Health as the lead agency, but in the transport space, that's led by Andy Excel's team, and then it evolves through different delivery models. Looking at the transport projects, for example, when it gets to delivery, you'll see there that it's a combination of Brian Roach's commercial and contract management stream and our infrastructure delivery stream. In terms of a couple of key reps, if you need to speak to people today or in the coming weeks, John Harrison heads up is the Director of Building Projects, so he's a key contact for social infrastructure, and Harvey Fernandez is a key contact as a Director of Transport Projects for those road, rail and marine projects. Before we move to the forward work slide, I've just got a couple of discussions about existing projects as well as some of our active projects. The Minister and John have talked about some of the amazing work we've delivered over the last year or so. In the last 12 months, we've achieved practical completion for $1.4 billion worth of projects, and that's split pretty evenly 50-50 between the social stream and the transport stream. Just to pick a couple of examples, we've completed the $300 million TQEH building, that was delivered by Build Environs. We've completed the $35 million Findon Technical College by Hindmarsh, $55 million Port Adelaide Rail Spur that was delivered by the Public Transport Programs Alliance with Dave Waltham as our interface manager, and a $465 million Main South Road Stage 1 and Victor Harbour duplication delivered by the Fluoro Connections Alliance with Mike Rander as our program interface manager. Just a very quick look at active projects. Not going to go through these in detail. Again, you can have a look afterwards, but there's a record spend in health with the women's and kids, as well as a lot of hospital upgrades, Modbury, Flinders Medical Centre, Repat, Noarlunga, etc. We've got 3 tram grade separations that the Minister mentioned out in the western suburbs. They're being delivered by our Tram Grade Separations Alliance with Neil Welsh as our interface manager. Andy spoke about the National Road Safety Program, the $168 million program that are improving our roads from 1-star rating to 3-star rating. We've got a whole heap of those projects already out to market, and there's a further group of projects still to come. That program also has a pedestrian and bike safety element to it, so there's opportunities tendering up in that. And we've got a further 3 technical colleges we've got to deliver. I mentioned on the previous slide about the Findon Technical College. We've got a further 3 technical colleges in delivery, so we're working with Sarah's, Kennett and Built on those projects. And Kate Atkins from our team is overseeing the delivery of that program. More active projects on this slide as well. We've got plenty of ambulance stations, we've got quite a few railway station upgrades, and we've got an upgrade at Cape Jervis and Penashore ports to enable larger ferries to go between the mainland and Kangaroo Island. But that's probably enough about what we've been up to. Most people are here to listen about what's coming up next, so the next slides all focus on those opportunities. As Andy mentioned, the Forward Works Plan has been published, and all the information I'm going to present on the next few slides is all in the Forward Works Plan. What I'm showing next is only an extract of it, so certainly encourage you to download that Forward Works Plan and have a look, and don't just focus on my slides because I've only got part of the detail. So just one point to note, over the next few slides I do have a column in there that's project value. Please be aware that is project value, it's not the construction value, so that project value could include land acquisition costs, utility costs, design costs and construction works. So starting with projects under $10 million, we've got a number of education projects, Bellevue Heights and Brahma Lodge, just to pick a couple of those. We're delivering most of our lower value construction, lower value education jobs as construct-only contracts. And we've got quite a bit of tendering in that education space in the next 6 months. Quite a lot of regional work going on as well for us. We've got hospital works at Port Augusta, we've got a CSSD upgrade at the Clare Hospital, TAFE and school upgrades at Mount Gambier, and we've got a new rest area that we're constructing down in the southeast. A number of intersection upgrades in northern Adelaide. They'll be construct-only jobs and they'll be tendered out early in 2025 or early in mid-2025. As well as an upgrade at the Copper Coast Highway near Wallaroo. Tendering for that's going to happen pretty soon, but then we're holding off construction work starting until February, March next year to avoid the peak holiday season up that way. As you'll see with most of these lower value contracts, they are delivered as construct-only models, and we've got a lot of tendering in this value range over the next sort of 6 months. So our 2 procurement teams, so Sam Michelli heads up the building or the social procurement team, and Jane Fitzgerald heads up the transport procurement team. They've got a great team working with both of those groups, and they've got a really busy next 6 months upcoming. Moving to projects in a bit bigger range in that $10 to $50 million. Again, we've got a really good mix of social and transport projects, and we've also got a good mix of metro, regional, and in some cases remote projects. Listed up here is 5 individual projects that we're doing on the Strzelecki track. So we're nearly halfway through sealing the Strzelecki track, and these 5 projects will get us much closer to that goal of a fully sealed track. Those projects are overseen by Craig Eckerman as our delivery manager, and they're actually run out of our Port Augusta office, which is led by Jodie Grayson. The Freight Highway Upgrade Program, Andy mentioned that. I've put it on this slide, even though you'll see it at the top with the $500 million, but that is a program of works over 10 years. We've just started our 3rd year in this program, so we're spending in the order of that $50 million per year. So there's plenty of opportunities upcoming in that program of works. There'll be jobs coming in that $10 to $50 million range. There might be a few in the lower ranges as well, but plenty of work coming out of that program over the many foreseeable years. James Congdon Sir Donald Bradman Drive upgrade. That's part of the $850 million off-corridor works that was announced as part of the T2D project. So tendering for that is in Q4 for this year. And you may have also recently heard of the announcement where the locations for 3 overtaking lanes are going to be located on Main South Road on the way to Cape Jervis. So it was recently advised where those overtaking lanes will be located, and that's all about making safer travel to the region when you're heading that way. A number of other road corridor projects on here. So there's an example of the Adelaide Hills productivity package. We've got quite a few projects in this slide from the Adelaide Hills productivity package. Houghton to Mount Pleasant is approximately $28 million, and that's going to be tendered early next year. Birdwood to Verdun corridor, $12 million, tendering later this year or early next year. And then there's some other projects that are only in early design inside of that program, so there'll be further tendering opportunities later in 2025 as well. And then we've got lots of slides, more schools and health projects on here as well in this dollar range. Moving to projects in excess of $50 million, we've got quite a bit of work up and around the Adelaide Hills region. So there's a new pre and primary school to be built at Mount Barker. We've got new freeway interchanges at Mount Barker and Verdun. So they're going to be delivered as D&C projects, individually tendered. We're actually in the tendering process now. We're out for an ROI and then we move to a request for tender process in Q4 this year. And there's also $200 million to upgrade or to deliver a fully managed motorway solution on the southeastern freeway. Darius Fanuk is heading up a lot of our projects in and around that area. More of the $850 million off-corridor projects on this slide as well. So a couple of examples, Richmond Railway, that's a $70 million project, looking to tender that early next year. And Grange East Holbrooks is actually out to tender at the moment. Andy Nicholson is our delivery manager who's got oversight of most of those $850 million off-corridor projects. And we've got a $92 million new netball stadium upgrade at Mile End. We're currently out for the designer, for the procurement of the designer at the moment, but then we'll be looking to move into construction procurement probably Q2 next year. Delivery model is still a bit of a work in progress, the exact model that we use to deliver that project. We've got 4 projects that are over $100 million that we're yet to engage a construction contractor. A $349 million new forensic centre. Abby Parry and Brian Andretzky have got oversight of that project for us. Again, we're only in early concept design, so we're progressing the concept, but we are looking at how we're going to deliver that project. We'll do an expression of interest and a request for tender in the new year, but a bit like some of the other projects, still working through the exact delivery model for that, but maybe we might do it at MC, but a bit of work in progress for us on that one. There's another prison upgrade at Yatala to deliver another 312 beds, $200 million project as well. Expression of interest for that will be released fairly soon for construction contractors. A new secondary school out north. We're in the design tender at the moment, and then we're going to move to the construction tender into 2025. Again, the model for that one's still a work in progress. We've delivered a few schools of this value as an ECI D&C model, so we might head down that path, but the team's got a bit of analysis to do before we conclude exactly how we'll deliver that one. And the managed motorway project that I mentioned earlier when I was talking about the Adelaide Hills. So a bit the same, it's early days on that project, so we're just looking exactly how best to procure that. At the moment, there's a bit of a thought that it will be a D&C, but a bit of work to conclude before we exactly decide on that model. So that concludes my around the grounds for projects. As I've said, the forward tender program is where all the detail lies. There is a QR code on the back of your form, or the back of your invite. So if you scan that, it'll take you straight to the forward works plan. You can download that and then look through all the detail. Really encourage you to have a detailed look through that. It's a lot of work in there, so please have a detailed review. Some of the projects that I've talked about you'll see there today, but there's also a lot of others in there as well. Mandy's now going to come up and talk a bit about engagement, but also then close the forum. But before she does come up, I just wanted to include one slide here that talks about some of the key interactions that we have with you, the industry, to deliver this forward pipeline. The Minister's talked about it, John's talked about it, how critical it is, our relationship with you, the industry. In both the social and the transport spaces, we have a couple of formalised quarterly forums with key reps from different industry sectors. So master builders, we've got key local civil contractors, QSs, Consult Australia, Architects Association, etc. We have some really good forums, and that's all about how we can work the best together to deliver these projects. We also have 2 key safety forums, again, one in each of the streams, Safety Contractors Alliance and a Safety Influencers Forum. These forums are just about sharing ideas, learning from each other how we can make our industry as safe as it possibly can be. So Chris Carr heads up the safety space for us and does a fantastic job with him and his team. We certainly encourage any interactions with industry. You know, there's lots of key members from DIT here today. Reach out to us, but there's also, we're available during the year. Reach out to us, come and have a chat if there's some things that aren't working or you think we could do things differently. We really do want to work together to deliver this record pipeline. So thanks very much for your time today, and I'll now hand back to Mandy.
Thank you, Simon. Okay, so I wanted to start by sharing with you a statistic that's pretty alarming. In the last decade across Australia, community opposition has resulted in $30 billion worth of infrastructure projects being either cancelled, significantly delayed, or having their scope changed. This statistic came from Australian National University, who's delivering a major research program looking at the social aspects of major infrastructure delivery. But beyond that, Infrastructure Australia's 2021 National Study of Infrastructure Risk noted that this figure could grow to up to $40 billion in the period between 2021 and 2031. Now, you certainly don't need me telling you about the implications of a project being cancelled or delayed, but I did think it was worth spending a bit of time talking today about how we together can mitigate this risk and maximise project support so we can get on delivering this massive pipeline in South Australia. Because the good news is, and the important news is, whether you're an architect, a designer, a planner, an engineer, a project manager, a construction manager, an engagement person, or someone working on a construction site, if you are working on a project in our state, you have a key role in creating project support. And the other good news is, together we have delivered, we are delivering, and we will soon be delivering more projects across South Australia that are well supported by community. So let's take a look at how we can keep this momentum going. And a good place to start is by listening to community. As part of the A&E research program I spoke about beforehand, they undertook an extensive customer research piece recently, directly asking people across Australia about their experiences and attitudes towards infrastructure planning and delivery. So what specifically did South Australians tell us? What they told us is the two key factors driving project acceptance in South Australia is that people actually understand the project benefits. Why are we delivering this thing and what are they going to get out of it? Also, people's levels of trust in the infrastructure department and government is really important. And then if we drill down further into what drives trust in South Australia, again, people actually understanding the project benefits. There's a bit of a theme here. As well as the level of transparency of the infrastructure department and people delivering the project, people feeling like they have a chance to give feedback, and also our responsiveness to feedback. So how is South Australia different to other states? First and foremost, we are in a good position. South Australia is currently stronger on trust and acceptance relative to other states. On the flip side, more people in South Australia are willing to take some form of action as a result of a project. They're motivated to talk about it. And interestingly, people in South Australia care more about what it means to them, their family, and their immediate community, rather than the more macro benefits. So now with that better understanding of the drivers of project acceptance, let's look at what we can all do to create project support. First of all, understanding the community you're working in. If you don't understand the community, how are we meant to make the best decision about what's included or excluded in a design and ensure it actually lines up with what's valued by that community? If we don't know how that strip of local businesses near our work sites operate and what's fundamental to their business, how are we meant to stage construction in a way that minimises impacts for them? Looking for opportunities to create local benefits. Now, this isn't about spending more money or doing things more complicated. It's about being smart with the decisions we make and showing care. We shouldn't underestimate how much the little things are appreciated. Proactively identifying social and reputational risks and working to mitigate or remove that risk early. If we understand our community and stakeholders, we're a much better place to actually identify that risk in the first place and do something about it, just like we would if we identified a safety or an environmental risk. Sharing emerging issues early. So we are here as an engagement team in the department to help. We've got our contact details down there, and we are very committed to working with you to find solutions, to identify potential opportunities so we can keep this momentum going. One thing to keep in mind is if you're working on a department project, people don't distinguish where we're from. We're all in this together, so we need to keep that front and centre. And the last thing, doing what we say we'll do. We know it takes a long time to build trust and a millisecond to lose it, so keeping in mind that every interaction counts. Now, touching on SA is building. As you have heard, the South Australian Government has established a new visual identity for all infrastructure projects. SA is building. You will have seen it start to roll out across our network, and this is only going to increase. SA is building, and this identity is a great way to communicate project benefits and link projects with government, both of which we all now know is particularly important for creating project acceptance. So our call to action here is if you're responsible for a construction site on a department project, please work to maximise opportunities for us to promote SA's building and get in touch with us, and we will help roll out that SA's building identity. And finally, social media posts. We know it is all too easy for people to just jump on quickly in social media and post a quick good news story about something that they're delivering with the department. We totally get it. Your intention is good and you are proud of what you are delivering. But by not giving government or the department the opportunity to post first, you're really not making the most of the opportunity for anyone for a number of reasons. Firstly, back to the trust piece. People being able to link projects back to government and allowing government or the department to talk about the good news stories, it's really important to help us build that trust and ultimately project acceptance. Secondly, we've got really powerful social media channels that we should all be leveraging. DIT's social media reach is not only large, but it is an audience who is really engaged and has specifically selected to follow us because they have an interest in infrastructure in South Australia. We also have a team of in-house experts who can time the release of social media posts to get the most value out of it. They can also ensure consistency of messaging, which is really important when we're trying to explain to people what the benefits are of these projects we're delivering together. Social media is a really powerful tool because whoever is making the post has full editorial control of the content, rather than when we submit a media release, we leave it to the journos to come up with the story. So that's why it's really important to us that we get this right. We've got a social media guide that explains all the processes and is available via our media team. But in short, if you're a contractor, potential draft posts and opportunities need to be provided to DIT for approval via the DIT Principal Contract Manager and the DIT Media team. And if you're a subcontractor, the same process applies, but it needs to be submitted through your contractor. Once government or the department has posted the story, of course, please repost amongst your networks and let's celebrate together. So my final call to action here is please reach out to us to share any potential social media opportunities before you post. We love talking about project milestones. We love talking about South Australians doing great things in South Australia. And we love talking about how community will benefit from what we are all delivering together. So it's worth us getting this right and making the most of every opportunity. Thank you. So, that concludes the 2024 Construction Sector Industry Briefing. Thank you so much to everyone who's joined us in person or online, and a big thank you to the Minister and the speakers for providing that detailed update on our 12-month pipeline. A reminder, the Forward Work Plan is now available on our website, and the recording of the live stream will be available to watch on our website from tomorrow. But for now, we'd love you to join us in the expo for morning tea and a chance to meet other members of the team. Thank you so much.